tape.
Oh, stuff I want on tape.
Okay,
All right, welcome.
I'm pulling up the master plan review, is that what we're doing now, growth?
Yeah, just real quickly, we're not gonna go into big detail on it,
Okay,
but mostly just an update on it. But yeah, we'll just starting the meeting of land use and planning, July 22nd, 2025. First off, reviewing the July 8th meeting minutes.
yes, went through them, they look great, Patty did a great job, she is not gonna be here, so I will take the minutes for this meeting. But yes,
I appreciate that.
move to approve as
And I will
written.
second. Okay. So yeah, in terms of the downtown master plan, that has been approved at,
You can officially do a vote or just motion in a second.
For,
vote. Aye. There we go. Okay. But anyhow, the downtown master plan has been approved by the, planning board. So we had public discussion or public input last planning board meeting. Not a soul in sight showed up.
is that the one, and then they canceled one too, there was a canceled
We
meeting.
canceled for tomorrow,
Okay,
as well as the week before that, because we weren't gonna be ready for that public hearing until we just didn't have anything else on the docket at that moment. So,
It's actually the month ago, not the one just 2 weeks ago.
the one before that. So there was, last one we actually had, and then the one before that was canceled.
so it was
That's what I
a
was
month
saying
previous.
verbally, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then we canceled tomorrow's because, essentially, it needs 30 days for review, or they're finalizing it.
50, yeah.
They're finalizing it with, Great West, no, WWC. Yes,
Okay.
I get those two mixed up all the time. WWC is finalizing it, and then that will be coming to council. Dave, do you remember what date that will be coming to council? I'm trying to look, I usually write that down, and I
Yes.
didn't.
I want to say it's actually in 2 weeks
2
is when it's coming. So the public notice is out this week, I believe.
Okay, perfect, that's what I was looking for. So yeah, just want to put that on the radar, that this will be coming to the full council the following meeting. I don't know if you have had a chance to look at it yet,
Scrolling through it.
yeah,
I was
again,
kind of overwhelmed with the growth policy, so now
that's
it's like,
fair, yeah.
I need a minute, I
Yeah.
need a minute.
That was, and again, we have a couple weeks to think about it, so just something to look over and, again, bring your discussions to the next meeting if you would like to, if there's things that you would like to discuss on it. On a whole, pretty happy with the direction that that took. There is a little bit of expansion on what our downtown is, kind of what the goals are. And it's a lot of the same stuff we've seen throughout the growth policy, same stuff that we hear at every public feedback meeting, that they want more, they want better sidewalks, they want more trails, and, you know, that's beautification, all of that kind of thing, and also keeping a cohesive downtown. So across the board, I think that's a little bit easier to digest than the growth policy, not quite as intense of a document. But just wanted to give you a status update on that. In terms of city process when making decisions on public land use. So we've had this, we've been chatting about this a little bit for the last couple weeks. Essentially, we need a process, and we're at the very high level stages now, to what we need to do whenever someone wants to use public land. So whether that's for permanent infrastructure, whether that's our MOUs, whether that's, I don't think we have to do temporary use, but more so things like the skating rink, Pride Park, all of those types of things, coal miners. What's the priority? How do we weigh it? All of those pieces. So again, very high level conversation today. I have not had a chance to read through Title VIII.
I was gonna say, anybody looked at the Title VIII?
So that, I think, is gonna be one of our big starting points, and unfortunately, with it being July, timing is not awesome. So let's do this right now, and actually, you got your computer too. I'm just gonna pull up Title VIII, and then,
Where did you find Title VIII? I searched it.
so if you go to the city webpage,
Yeah,
and then you go to resources and just click on municipal code.
Okay, got it. There we go. And then, okay, because I just did Title 8
Yeah.
search, and I was like, whoop, that's gonna take forever.
Yeah, and
Oh, here it
so,
is. Title 8, public ways and public property.
yeah, so I think just kind of going through this and seeing what laws are already in place. So again, adoption of standard specifications, like some of this is gonna be a little bit
Well,
not
and it-
super relevant, but there's gonna be some things that are really relevant,
It
so.
seems like there's quite a bit.
Yeah, because this is all public ways, so when you go through each of these, breakdowns,
Okay.
I don't
park,
think,
purpose, permit required, exemptions. Exemptions.
yeah, I don't probably have to worry about cemetery, public library, but tree regulations,
I know, I saw that, but then if you scroll down and it goes all the way to like chapter 8 is use of city-owned property.
yep.
And then it goes into cost recovery for events. I'm gonna click on that because I'm just curious. What does that mean?
So cost recovery for events, if I remember correctly, that is, they have to put down a deposit
Right.
as well as a cleaning fee.
I think cost recovery, to me, starts to get into that realm of, you're bringing in something wherefore we need extra police officers, so you need to write us out a check for $5,000 or something.
Well, and it says, authorities shall charge the applicant a fee if the request involves the exclusive use of city property,
Mhm.
if it involves the sales of goods or services, solicitation, or if it involves physically altering the property. So, according to this, they charge if it involves the sale of goods, services.
Yep, they do.
Okay.
It's a very small fee, it's like $150.
Okay.
So, what is the objective?
And that's kind of where I'd like to start
That
too,
would tell you what parts of.
that we need to actually be
that you
looking
need to
at.
review.
Yep.
Yep.
So essentially what we are trying to do, and I also want to know who's involved because, again, we might be able to get input out the gate before even developing this, where it's like, this is how we do it.
Uh-huh.
So the objective is, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, is when there is public land in a private entity or public entity, nonprofit entity, or just group of citizens
Right.
would like to utilize it for a particular purpose, that there is essentially an application process or just a process at all to where they have to kind of go through certain steps to make sure that they can use it for that purpose.
Now,
Is
are
that
you talking
correct?
about the permanent, so this is like if there's.
I'm talking about all of it.
Because
Well,
there's land use, which is one thing, like you said, we've already
Yeah.
discussed that.
Uh-huh.
But what happens with public lands, basically with competing interests?
And that's,
Trees in an open field park, or an observatory in an open field
Mm.
park. Coal miners park, where I have frisbee golf, tennis.
and I don't think it necessarily has to be competing interests. When there's interest, when it's a public space, just because no one else wants to do anything with it, doesn't mean that that's necessarily the reason we should do it.
That's fair,
Yeah.
right? Because.
Because it doesn't
what-
mean
what
that
is the
down the
future
line,
impact
someone's
of
gonna be
this?
like, man, I could have absolutely done something better here.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, that's where I kind of think back to it, where it's
Highest and best use of public
highest and
land.
best use, yep. So
Okay.
how do we determine that? And what kind of process does that look like? So I think out the gate, one, and I know Dave's gonna hate hearing me say this, because I know he wants this sooner than later. But I think realistically, we should look and figure out, like, essentially have a map. I'm gonna write all this down and I'll scan and send later.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have your objective before you can set your timeline.
Right, yeah.
Right, so, and I think it
And-
comes down to,
I haven't heard the part that Dave hates yet.
yeah, so the main thing right now is, I mean, we have, in the event that somebody would like to use it, yes, but the main thing is, how do we determine the highest and best use for a competing interest on that park?
Or I think,
Or is-
I like dropping competing interest as highest and best use, because you may not know what the competing interest is. It may be a future competing interest.
So just
Yeah.
the highest
Well,
and best
you're
use.
only
I
determining-
think where she was going that she's gonna say Dave is not gonna like, or Dave is gonna hate, is that we have a half a dozen things in process.
Mhm.
And so,
That's not even necessarily that, so more so, I think we need to have, first off, a map of these public spaces that could even qualify for public use in these kinds of regards. Pardon me, sorry.
So you're looking at long-term uses versus short-term uses.
Mhm.
So like the observatory or a tennis
Right.
court or
Right,
those types of things are a long-term use.
yep. So,
Or tearing up Pride Park and putting a large concrete slab in it.
Yep.
Well, that would be, yeah,
Permanent.
so essentially, first, before we could even make the deciding factors, I think it's important to understand what we even have to decide on. So again, having a map of these public spaces that could qualify for long-term public use.
Okay.
And I like the idea of keeping it as long-term public use.
Right, because if it, short-term, it wouldn't, sure,
Well,
you can use
it's
it.
addressed under your
Yeah.
events. and
Yeah.
It's one of those things
It's
where
more
it's
of an
like,
event.
like, okay, even if you're using it for 5 years, then like, like,
Now-
because,
Now, how do you make it so that the winner of that public input for long-term public use is not just whoever puts together the group of the loudest people that comes and, because
again, we're not even there yet, Dave. We're still
coming up
very
with
infant
Finding the
stages of this.
locations.
This is what you're not gonna like, is that this is going to be time
oh,
consuming.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
But no, I agree, like, we need a map to establish which locations are
Yep.
even permissible to
Yep.
talk about,
Yep.
right?
Exactly, like, where do we actually see any of these things happening? So we have coal miners,
Yeah.
Field School Park, we also have things like the top of the hill, that's public space, but what would be the highest and best use for that? And then, this doesn't necessarily mean recreational all the time, it might mean public services, this might mean housing, this might mean selling it for the community. And there might be certain places that we wanna check and like, so one, are there already designations for those spaces, not just necessarily zoning designations, but also dedicated parks. So we need to know what the zoning is, we need to know which ones are already dedicated to certain purposes, especially if there's deed restriction on any of these. So, I mean, I think back to my childhood town where, a gentleman donated, I think, close to 30 acres of forested area for school studies and investigations, had it deeded
Mhm.
to the city for that specific use, and then they went behind and traded that land for a downtown space to build City Hall,
Oh,
and then it got turned into a department store. So, like, that was a really,
That couldn't happen here legally.
right, I don't think it could happen there legally, but they
No.
did it anyhow, so that was, again, I think about that to where the city should be, like, whenever we're going through these evaluations, we have this to refer to, and we're not trying to figure it out, or just assuming that when it comes to us, that it's okay. Because it, again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's right when it comes through. So, having that process for the city to understand, to when it does come forward, we're like, oh, no, because like, I didn't know that that was designated, that Whistler Observatory area was dedicated for open space. And I'm wondering, did most of the other council members, did they have something to actually look at and be like, oh, no, we can't do that there?
This is a yeah, so we need to figure out what the actual designation,
Yep, what's already in place?
And so an existing inventory.
Yep. Having an existing inventory would be fantastic, and again, that's all city land, I think, is important. So, again, we're talking about the police department wanting to build a new facility, what if they wanna build that in Field School Park?
What?
Right, so again, it's like, there's different ways that this could go, and it's bigger than just a tennis court, like, and having this established.
You need to identify the city property that's appropriate for infrastructure development, like a police department,
Yep.
versus
open space.
open space
Mhm.
recreation for the public,
Yep,
which would be a skating rink.
right,
And what is right in the moment won't necessarily be right down
10 years from now.
the road, but
And-
you have to work in the moment
Yep.
to establish.
And that will be something too that we can include in this is, okay, when is it appropriate and what process do you have to go through if you want to re-designate the space?
Well, and that's where we need to, so I feel like that's number 2. So you have number 1, we need the map designation of space.
Yep.
And then 2, what's the process of reviewing these spaces, and is there a timeline that we need to review these spaces?
Yep.
It's gonna take what it's gonna take.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, if you have the process in place, it should be like, you know, an application to planning board, where there's a certain amount of timeline where the city does have to review it.
Right, so,
So it doesn't just sit in the hopper for God knows how long.
I don't know the answer to this question, but is there a process where the planning board fits into this?
Absolutely, and that's,
Do they go through and create the inventory and?
see, and I don't know if that would
Is
be,
that staff?
I think that would be a staff, because
think
one,
that's probably correct.
Yep, I think that's staff to figure out the inventory, and then from that, there's a couple of different applications for this, right? So, there's the process of reviewing designations, so who's involved, I have that on our agenda. So planning board is a key player. So, watch this, before I get too ahead of myself, what is the process for reviewing designation? And that we can do this one out the gate, and then we can reutilize this. Like, if there's certain areas that aren't designated right now, we can reutilize this later if someone wants to change.
right.
So it can be that same step
Format,
process.
yeah.
Yep. So, process for reviewing, highest and best use. And that's like our goal, right?
Mhm.
So, current infrastructure. Hello. Community need. And then with that little subsection on that, community needs isn't just like, well, we think the community needs this. Like, where can you document and reflect back to prove that as
Mhm.
well? So whether that's the growth policy and master plan, whether that's a community survey that was put together by, whether it's city staff or a nonprofit organization, like, you need something to back that claim.
Okay. Growth plan.
And then also, I think a public hearing is important.
Yeah,
And again, that will be posted in the newspaper that 30% of the
public
town reads.
hearing, yeah. Highest, best, current infrastructure, community needs,
Other things that you'll wanna review is zoning,
yeah, I have.
zoning regulation and law, or ordinance.
Zoning dash law ordinances.
Does this, again, some more so when I think of zoning, the reason I say that is, like, you have your different zones, and they
Mhm.
have to, you can't just randomly put R1 in the middle of R4, right?
Right.
So kind of the same way, but I feel like parks, that can just kind of go anywhere.
Right.
Same with public, like, I feel like there doesn't have to be that same congruence, but also shouldn't be conflicting either.
Right, but at the same time, you don't want like, yeah, if it comes down to, again, I know you don't wanna say competing interests, but if it does come down to something competing, like, we don't
Mhm.
want to
Yep.
choose one when the community needs another.
Right. And then another thing to consider is, long-term strategy with it
Well, and that's kind of like the review,
and infrastructure, or not infrastructure,
the kind of
but,
like space designation for it. Cause I feel like we have it set as a green space, it's designated as a green space, but let's say, like you say, in 10 years from now, it would be a prime location
yep,
for whatever's needed in 10 years.
yeah. Or more so what I'm thinking is, how is it sustained? So a sustainability plan for it versus a long-term plan.
There we go.
So for instance, you have a group that wants to do something, what is their sustainability plan for essentially 10 years out? And when that fails, can the city feasibly take over that cost
Mhm.
and energy and get that essentially signed off by current city staff? Because I think that's where there's been big concerns with some of the different things that have gone in, to where it's like, cool, this is great for the first 2 years you took care of it. Roundabout, good example.
Mhm.
So the Boy Scout group was supposed to maintain that,
Right.
and like, that was kind of in parks, and then it just
And then they
fell
go
to the
off.
wayside, but no one's really accountable because it's a volunteer group.
Mhm.
You can't like fine them, or can we fine them? Like, if, okay, we're giving you this land, but if you don't maintain it to the degree that you said you did, you get a 3-strike warning, like you get a fine.
Or if you don't find another, yeah.
Because like, again, we don't have some consequences, or again, you pass that off to someone else who can maintain it,
Mhm.
or the city absorbs it. Because Mike Maples said it himself, where you should just plan that the city's gonna have to absorb it, because it's never gonna last.
Yeah.
So I think, again, the sustainability, so cost, maintenance, who's in charge, how long.
Management.
MOUs kind of fits into that discussion.
Yep, and that's exactly it. MOUs is totally gonna play into this. And then also, is the city willing and capable of taking it over?
And when you say the city, recognize that means council.
Yep. Well, and again, I think that this would also come with, like, going into the who needs to be involved.
Mhm.
Public Works, the building department, planning board, and parks board, specifically. I think of those groups and those entities where I'm not, as a city council person, I'm not gonna say, oh, we could totally take care of this, when Mike Maples is there shaking his head.
Okay, no.
Or Brian Hanna says, not a chance.
Yep.
Or even the mayor says, we don't have that in the budget. So I think that that's important to reflect on, is it's not, city council needs to have these recommendations. So,
Public Works, Planning, Council all need to be,
yep. So again, I think that goes into the who needs to be involved, and then what does that look like? So
I know this is a detour back to your comment, you're not gonna like this, takes time. Actually, exactly the opposite. To me, aside from getting the budget stuff figured out on the long term, this is probably this is like next on the list of big impact. How do we set the city up for success in the future? This is like a major, huge initiative.
yeah, no, it's massive. So that's why when
Yeah.
you brought it up, I'm like, this is that, because I think you said, like, I really could have this in like 6 weeks. I'm like, that's great. It's gonna take 2 years.
Oh, no, no.
Like-
Like I said, the side thing I'm going in background is, like I said, stuff that's in
Already
process now.
in the
We've got
process.
an ice skate rink that,
Yep,
is the city going to be capable of running it in the future? Because the interested parties move away,
Grow up,
you know,
Die
whatever.
Hockey's, yeah, that's a
They
very.
I
retire
think
and
change
move
it,
to
allows for
other
no ice
areas.
period, just
Yeah.
becomes a city pool. We get a second city pool, great.
splash pad, mud, mosh pit.
Mosh pit, yeah, we'll call it the mosh pit, I love this. But again, there's certain things that we're not gonna be able to avoid, like, obviously, there's certain projects that have to move forward,
Right.
and we'll just do our best. There's sometimes we just have to do
And
our
that's part
best.
of why I'm listening to us, trying to try to keep as much in line with, as this is still developing,
Well, and I
deal
also
with the
feel,
in-process stuff the best way possible.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of these that are in process are also setting a precedent too, right? Like, we're
Yep.
kind of looking at it like, ooh, we can see that's gonna cause a problem later, let's readdress this, but we're like, yeah, so far this is right down the alley
Yeah.
we wanna pursue. Like with the ice skating rink, it's not something that's tomorrow they're working on it, it's still kind of following all the guidelines.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. Like, if I look at the ice skating rink, I see that, you know what, we have current infrastructure there,
Yep, we've,
or what isn't there is being planned for.
right, is it
Again-
a need?
There's been a lot of public input on it, obviously. You know, zoning allows for it. I don't see any laws going against it at this point. Sustainability, like, that's part of that pilot grant, is that it's supposed to be a sustainable program.
Mhm.
Part of the reason they only issue money every so many years is to keep it as a keep the longevity of these projects.
And
I think with that project, you have to look at multiple use,
Mm-hmm.
because it's an ice skating rink for
winter.
a certain part of the year, but what purpose does it serve afterwards? Well, they're talking about things, but then the real reality of the maintenance of a
Yeah.
splash pad.
Yeah.
Right.
You know how much it costs to maintain a swimming pool.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
just the amount of water you have to use for the splash pad. But even just having like a public pavilion, a stage area, a place for Sam to go do Zumba, 'cause I just love her morning Zumbas at the gazebo.
The gazebo.
Like, but
Um,
again, I can see that multi-use, and I think that's something that is on the forefront.
The other project, a tennis court.
That's a tennis court,
It's a tennis,
or pickleball,
Or
I guess
pickleball.
there's two.
but it's hard to multi-purpose a tennis court.
Yep. So I think even that would be something for that highest, best use. Recognizing the user groups and multi-use. Financially, does it bring money into the city or take money away from the city?
Or make money.
And I think,
Well,
and there's a lot of those, and that, pretty much you said, it's in the highest and best use too. Because you don't have a pool because it's a moneymaker.
right.
You don't have an
You gotta look
airport
at it
because
as
it's a moneymaker.
Community
quality
needs.
of life
Yeah.
versus, how does it affect the opportunities for the residents of the community?
Yep,
Because there's a lot of things that don't necessarily bring direct revenue into the city.
right.
Just based on their purpose, but if the quality of life is better in the community, more people move here.
Yep.
And consequently, that.
And that's
brings more
exactly it.
to
That's
the
more
city.
what I'm leaning into.
Circle.
And that's, you know, again, you have an amenity now that, one, either brings in long-term residents or helps our tourism, one of the two. So again, I think of the ice skating rink, that not just benefits our long-term residents, but it also benefits people coming into the area. Having a summertime pavilion, that brings those benefits. So
Right.
what's the benefit, and whether it's financial, whether it's quality of life, whether it's
Well, so how does it?
grant
meet our-
opportunities, like,
The community needs, again, quality of life, cost,
And I think it's fair to just recognize going into that there's a substantial part of the community who doesn't care diddly squat whether it supports tourism or brings people in, because they just assume that we don't, they
Yeah.
don't understand or haven't thought it through, or.
No, again,
whatever
but there's also people that do, and that's why,
But I'm of the firm belief that tourism is the business of Red Lodge. It's
Yeah.
why we exist. When the mine went away, that's what we do.
100%. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's gonna agree with that, but that's why there's multiple things that we're rating this on.
Is
It's not
there
just tourism.
somewhere that the city has acknowledged what they are? That we are a tourist town?
Is that in our,
In the growth policy.
in the growth
Yeah.
policy?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And the downtown plan.
you know, I commented on a trip with the family earlier this summer. If Red Lodge ever becomes a Jackson, Wyoming, I'm probably gonna have to move. Because there is.
There's a borderline, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have
There's
the
a balance.
discussion, we have the discussion daily.
Yeah.
I think we just had it this morning,
Mhm.
so.
And we're pretty ideal right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there's not
We've
many,
got enough to keep businesses viable, but not so much that locals can enjoy the community.
again, this is a very unique community in that fact, because I've lived in a lot of tourism spots, and you don't see this often, but it's because of the community members specifically. It's not the stuff that's here, it's the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the fact that the people make this somewhere you wanna live, not just visit. That's the big differentiating, like, piece. is the
That's
ma-
what we have to protect.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, there's a lot of folks that, yes, they come and visit, but there's a reason we have more and more people moving here, because they want to live here, and now there's, okay, we're getting way sidetracked, sorry.
Just turning.
I'm like, I could go on this one for hours,
Yeah.
but, okay, so what's the benefit for the community? The reason I wanna put financial cost to the city, or what it might be bringing in, because that's just important to recognize. It is good to know, and it's gonna be something that might be make or break kind of decisions. But specifically, like, I think about when we annexed in the lot up at the golf course, that brings in tax revenue, right? Or no, we de-annexed the property and did a split, but it essentially brought in
Money
tax
into the, yeah, into the.
tax revenue. So again, thinking about the lot at the top of the hill, is that now something that can be sold, it's now residential, it's doing long-term rentals, it's deed restricted, whatever, but now it's bringing in tax revenue as well, versus just open space. So, again, weighing out those pros and cons and having that broken down is super helpful. So then, again, so who needs to be involved and what does that look like? We kind of hit the key players, so you have city staff,
Mhm.
you have Parks Board, you have Planning Board, I think there's public,
Yep, that's what public input.
we have public input, and then, you have, obviously, city council,
And, yeah.
and that's kind of the final step. So I think what it is when someone goes in to redesignate or use one of these spaces, whether it's redesignation or whether it's actually use, they have to get a recommendation from each of these, like, different people, like, and we can even have like a formal letter that's already provided for planning board and parks board with their formal recommendations. Like, we reviewed the steps that were asked of us, because that's the thing, I think this highest and best use, some of these get evaluated by different departments. So,
With
they
the-
can put together, I guess the whole application could go to each.
Right, well, and I feel like the public input is probably the guiding part where
Yep.
public input says, hey, we wanna do this, and then,
Yeah, so I mean,
Somebody
you get a
can-
few letters of recommendation, like, or you get a petition signed, like, I have 100 people that want this, or that think this is a good idea. Or again, I think no matter what, there's a public hearing. But yeah, I think that each of these parties needs to provide their recommendation after reviewing the application. What else? So, so I think what also is important, what factors do we feel would essentially immediately eliminate an option? Because that's one thing too, is you might just have someone show up with a bad idea.
what factors would immediately?
Someone wants to come and just create the mosh pit, like Chelsea.
And how do you have
Revoke
the
idea.
appropriate checks and balances in there?
Yep,
Because we've seen what happens when that decision-making ability is focused. Oh, that's a bad idea.
yeah,
Some balances.
Get rid of an airport,
right.
put an observatory in a park. And those are.
Well, and I think what it could be is if you can't get the recommendations from each part, or each of those
Yeah,
subsets,
they need a recommendation from, like, who's to say, so-and-so, hey, I wanna get rid of the airport. I have a friend who sits on planning board, I have a friend who sits on council, and I have a friend who does this. Each one of you write me a letter of recommendation, and I'll
so, but here's the thing, it still ends up having to be voted on. And I think that should be the recommendation, it has to be voted on by each of these groups.
Okay.
So like, for that letter of recommendation, each of these boards, the council, has to be a majority vote. Like, obviously, I think, so the way it would start is you get your recommendations from department heads and the public. Then it goes to the boards, then it goes to council. So that's kind of your step of process. And the other thing with that too is this doesn't allow it to be a knee-jerk situation, and I know people are gonna be pissed because it's gonna take so long, but you know what, end of the day, it should take time.
It's not, local government government in general is not designed to be fast
Yeah,
or
No.
efficient,
no, definitely not.
to be equitable.
I think line C falls into the current MOUs,
Mm-hmm,
And the inventory,
yep,
what needs to be improved,
mm-hmm,
what needs to be avoided.
yep. And that's exactly it. And the problem is a lot of our MOUs are different.
Well, they're written by different councils.
Yeah,
different
Figure
staff.
the shelf life of a council is 2 years.
Well, it's
Normally.
staff actually were originally, council disapproves it, but we can.
Is
But
there,
the council sets the tone.
yeah,
a lot of MOUs are developed by council members.
They haven't been.
Okay.
So on that note, let's go to what's
Who was
already.
reviewing? Was it Sandy that started reviewing all of our MOUs?
She did, yeah.
And she got to like
So,
77 or something. It
Yeah,
was
that's what I
like-
was gonna ask, is how many do we have and how many do
so
we
who
read?
who would be the staff that needs to be involved?
Well, it's generally like a planner that has been doing it, but it's still, if you go back to like when Peter Italiano was a city planner type role, and goes back to that open position I'm hoping to get advertised really soon. That and budget, I think, are the two next biggest things. But again, my concern there is I don't want all that power there without any checks and balances and going through council. I'm unique in that I value very much the role that council plays. I think that's one of our that's our legislative body. That's where we need to get things to, not away from. And I did not like your idea of, you were saying we need a majority from all of those, because that in fact gives each of those groups an individual veto power, which I don't think goes anywhere except the council. I think the only place where majority counts is when it gets to council.
I guess the council.
That
But
being
it's
said,
conceivable that Parks Board could say, no, we don't want to do it, and council says, thank you for your input, but we do. And planning board is the same thing, thank you for your input. You've seen where
Okay.
council has come in and overridden what the
So-
majority of.
so,
Planning
Reject
board has
approval
done.
with input.
Yeah, they are, if I go to a RACI matrix, right, they are input versus the responsible party for making the decision is council.
But we'll take it that it was like a 3-4 vote from Parks Board
yep,
for or against, and then, it'll
So-
help us as council determine,
yeah, it might be even just like, okay, we have this section of, were you able to get these recommendations? If not, why? And those folks might be
Yeah.
asked to come and speak to that. Like, if it's Parks Board, like, well, we just don't like the type of tree that they're using, or we think it should be a park, not an apartment complex. So that's where I could see that conflict coming in for sure.
Right, well, yeah,
And the nice thing we have now that we didn't have in the past is all the meetings are recorded, so
Mhm.
that everybody can go back and review that meeting.
Yep,
You don't have to get the highlight, you can see what all the input was.
yep,
so we're on record for suggesting a mosh pit.
yes, absolutely. Gotta have a good time, man. So I think that's a good form of checks and balances, because I agree, I don't wanna see all the power go to one board, because
Yeah.
I've seen that happen very badly in the past.
Well, in fairness, all the power does go to one board, but that board by definition is council.
Yeah, and they're voted in, and that's the difference. And then also, I don't want it to be like, well, I wasn't able to get our public works director's sign off on this. And it might just be, why wasn't I able to? Is there a solution to fix that?
Right, was it?
And that's the job I trust council to do.
Yep,
Okay.
so that's, again, it can still make it to the top without having to get the yeses on everything. So it's not red tape, it's orange tape. Got it. So then, okay, so what has already been established and things that we need to review and probably
MOUs.
clean up as well.
Again, back to the MOUs and what we have are currently in place, and those that are updated, and those that are no longer in use, I mean, I think
Yeah.
what Sandy was realizing, there's some that haven't been,
Oh, yeah, haven't been signed off on
Signed
in
off, yeah.
years. So I think that would be a good thing to look at, is one, current MOUs. Because that's just it too, if someone wants to change the use, but there's already a MOU in place, can't do it.
right,
Also, we want these MOUs to be consistent as well. Like, there can always be additional provisions, but I think they should all have the same, there should be a a section of the same rules
right.
and process.
I think the driving factor is developing MOUs in projects that are in the works that you're going to have to deal with
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
soon.
Well, and again, it doesn't necessarily have to
which will
be,
help guide all of these other things.
well, because the way I'm kind of picturing this is there's an MOU, but then there's an elevated agreement. Like, some sort of contract with city and organization
That is the MOU by definition.
by definition, but I feel like, so you might just have two. But, so the, two different types of MOUs. So again, having two formats.
Yeah, you're going back, now you're back to your MOU templates and what does it need to
Right.
address.
Right.
Exactly.
Do we
So
have?
that's what I'm saying, is two different, at least two. One where it's just like, oh, you know, we use this park on these days for this activity, versus I built a building.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a lease involved in this?
Right,
And I think
like-
that's where we need,
Whistler versus garden party.
yeah. Whistler versus Lions Park, where they just mow, you know? So like, that's also something, do we need a lease, a land lease? And I think Dennison would be a good person to reflect to on that. Just something a little bit more official.
You need to establish who's in control of the property and when,
Yep.
kind of like a renter,
Oh, yeah.
you know, who's.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where the land lease kind of comes in, like who is actually,
And even with MOUs, that's something that's in there, but the problem is those heads change so much.
exactly.
So they're also, again, what are our consequences as well for when these things are not, when these agreements are not being fulfilled?
Going back to the multipurpose venue in Lions Park that's going to be established. In the wintertime, the skate group's going to be the controlling party of that property.
Mhm.
Right, but then
But who's in control of the property
in July.
off-season of that?
Right. Is it Lions? 'Cause
And
it's
then
Lions.
just,
Right.
exactly,
Does Lions MOU,
Is it
Lions
the
Club,
city?
what are they responsible for versus farmer's market? You know, who's responsible for what sections of an area and for that venue that is hopefully not remaining idle
Yeah.
9 months of the year. And the skating group is not gonna have much interest, I would believe, in summer. As far as their focus is in ice.
Yeah.
And that's just it too, it's like, okay, we add someone to this MOU,
Right.
getting the other parties, the other user groups to agree to it and agree to the terms, just the same way you would with any contract, and either amending it or terminating a previous one and doing a new one.
I think it illustrates that that particular venue will be owned and operated by the city with MOUs with interest groups.
Yeah,
Right, well, and
that's
that's,
exactly it.
that goes, it all comes down to, again, cities, main management and,
I'm picturing kind of a matrix that has the properties down here and then across the top. So maintenance, scheduling responsibility,
Mhm.
and, yeah, and like you said, you have an MOU template that has this section, has this section, has this section.
Yep,
I'm not sure what the best, but as you were talking about it, it was floating in the air.
Yeah.
he had a whole diagram set up in his brain.
no, I get it, like, that's how my brain works too, so like, but again, I think about that, I think about having legitimate contracts, I think they need to have consequences, because otherwise it's just too easy to stop.
Well, exactly. If there are no consequences, it's just, I'm done.
Yep,
What are you gonna do?
sorry, I didn't have time to mow it this week.
So,
Yeah, and I think about like coal miners, just that whole area and how many user groups there are and the amount of conflicts that they have. So also enforcement, that's another big one that's always an issue for us. So specifically, I know like, I think the high school javelin team or track team were throwing javelins on the soccer field, and the soccer field got pissed, and like, they need to be doing it down there, and then baseball got pissed, because they're doing it in there, and it's like, okay, like, what does the MOU say? But each one of those user groups have different MOUs,
yeah, every single one says something different.
and then that's exactly it. Instead of having multiple MOUs, it needs to be one and you just, whenever it changes, whenever
Right.
someone gets added, that old one terminates, new one gets modified, or it's a simple amendment. I mean, just as you would with any other contract, but it's gotta be where everyone is reflecting to the same document, and you don't have all these hundreds going around.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, time.
Yeah, time to wrap it up, but before we do, I just wanna add that I am extremely comfortable, confident, optimistic, and happy with the group that we have here that's kind of spearheading this and doing this on it. You guys, we've got the right people on this, in my humble opinion.
Oh, well, thank you, and thanks for everybody being involved.
And I know Patty's not here yet, but.
She'll
as
be
I
great
look
at this.
I'll run her in.
Chelsea, Cinta, and Patty, it's like, we've got the
Yeah.
right, we've got the right group here, so.
So.
Take your time, get it right.
Right.
And that's definitely taking a lot to take our time. So one thing we'll probably do now, we'll formulate what we actually need to, we have like our baseline of what we need, I think we've pretty much covered it.
Well, yeah,
Obviously,
so
we-
let's rehab, okay, so what we basically need, first things that I'm looking at that we just figured out what the objective is, we do need to figure out all the spaces and their designations.
Dave, is there any chance that you could have someone at the city, whether that's Brian or Mike or,
It'd be either Brian
or it might be WWC?
or WWC, I think is kind of who will be there, so. Yeah, I've got that, getting that inventory going.
Okay,
How do you feel about on future agendas? And by the way, I will send you the kind of my copy, because yours is one that I'm still changing 4 different things, because like this still says the Monday before the,
oh,
in the
okay,
version you
yep.
give me, and the time and stuff, I'll send you that. But how do you feel about this one on the bullet item, just being ensuring highest and best use of public lands? Is that kind of the new objective, rather than city process when making decisions on public use, or?
I think it should still be city process of ensuring,
Because we are trying to set the
Of
guidelines.
ensuring highest and best use?
of
Right,
public,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
of public
I think
land.
that's use.
Yep,
So city process, okay,
that to me is
ensuring
fine.
highest and best use, okay.
Yep.
So, all right,
Okay, so we just need the,
I'll tweak it and send you to a new master that'll save me.
Sounds good, headaches, sorry.
no
No,
worries.
there's 80, there's not one of them that I make less than 6 changes to. It's like, nobody's using the one from last week. They're using the one from February.
I literally
Oh.
copied and pasted the one from last week.
No, but not the one that came back, the one
Oh.
that you sent in. So it has all the
Oh.
stuff from February in it still.
Oh, gotcha.
Got it. Okay, spaces and their designations, and I feel like we need to go back through and I'll get with Sandy to look at the MOUs.
Yeah, that'd be great.
See where we're at with that.
Yeah, if we can just get a copy of all the MOUs.
And I think she did, she had them printed out, and she had some
It was a binder, man.
70-some
Yeah.
MOUs.
And that's a-
That included expired.
Yeah,
It
it did, and that's what she was realizing, was that, holy cow, there's still so many in here that are expired, they're no longer in use, and others that are still in use but haven't been signed off for like 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a big mess of MOUs. And honestly, it makes me wonder, like, do we just create the process for the new MOU, figure out which
From
ones we
this point on?
actively have,
Yeah.
and then resend those out?
You know, just update them as we go once you get it done.
Yep.
Yep. Review current.
And then I think one thing just for city staff, and this is just a recommendation, I'm not trying to tell them what to do, but some sort of calendar with notifications that, or again, spreadsheet, matrix, whatever, that gets reviewed when MOUs are getting ready to expire.
Okay.
I think that would be really helpful, because one, whether it's public record or we can go and reflect on it,
Like, right, like I turn on my computer and my calendar says today, oh, hey, look,
next month, this
M-
MOU expires, we
MOU,
should probably address this.
yeah.
You know, send out an email, whatever that looks like. But I
So
do think.
that floating table we're talking about,
Mhm.
one column that just says when the MOU expires, that you could sort by really
Yep.
easy things to
Yep,
do.
expiration dates.
So, yeah, that would be, I think, beneficial. So I think we're gonna get that map of the public spaces. We'll get our MOUs and see what we do like of the pre-existing ones.
Right.
I do think that we just kind of go through Because one of the, I don't think we actually have to go to Title VIII just yet.
No, I agree. I think we need to start here to
Yep.
lead to here.
Yep, and then in terms of, we're gonna be creating some application process, what kind of rules need to be in that? For our current ordinance, and we might just say, refer back to Title VIII for different rules on trees, yada, yada, yada,
Yeah.
but I think that,
Some things don't need to change, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but also I think it is good that the city has an understanding of what those are. So again, we're not making the mistake of like, oh, apparently we weren't supposed to plant trees there because of what our title says.
whoopsie-daisy. We don't need those.
So, as long as we have that referred back to where it's like, hey, whenever you're reviewing, there should be like a step-by-step process of reviewing an application too. So there'll be criteria for the applicant to put in, as well as criteria for the review process, to where, don't forget to look at this, and this, to make sure that it matches.
Oh, there are penalties in here.
Yeah. For MOUs?
Violating any provision of this title and chapters. So anything that has to do with Title VIII,
That's helpful.
$50 fine. First offense, warning.
Yep.
Second, 50. Third offense, $100.
Yeah, and I feel like for this, it should be a little bit more, not drastic, but like, it
At
should,
least make a difference.
like $50 to a certain user group, like,
You know, maybe in 1995, that seemed like a lot.
yeah. So anyway, we'll wrap this up, but I think we're on a good track. So yeah, just thinking about what things are gonna have to get built, and we'll just kind of create a checklist from there and take it one by one.
Yep, agreed.
And then I think also, once we kind of have, these are the things that we want, reaching out to those groups. So again, we'll have Mike, Brian, WWC put in their input. Then also Planning Board, Parks Board. I know
I
that,
added legal to that list too.
thank you,
yes.
yes,
Yeah, absolutely, he needs to be in there.
yeah,
I feel like, you can't say that.
And then I'll be happy to share my scribbles with you as well.
cool,
Just if there's anything.
awesome. Okay, so, any other public comment while we're here? Because I don't really care that we're anymore.
I guess the only thing that made me nervous was the discussion on selling city properties.
That's fair.
Noted.
I, again, I'm
I've
just
watched
saying
Over
that,
the years, I've watched a lot of city properties be sold, and once they're gone, they're gone.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
And
why.
some of them, I mean, it was appropriate, but at the same time, as we move forward in
It's
the
a done
future,
deal, like you said. Yeah.
you know,
Once it's gone, it's
parking,
gone.
we have no overflow parking areas because they've been sold or repurposed
Mhm.
over the years. So
Mhm.
what we have is what we've got.
Working on that, just as a side note.
Okay.
And I think part of that is, what we're doing is to make sure that it's not taken lightly. I mean, even just with land swaps,
Mhm.
like, anytime city land is up to, like, I'm actually gonna put this on our list. City land swaps,
Swapping.
yep. We already have a bit of a process for that, so that'd be good to look at as well. But again, just those moments where it's like, is this the highest and best use? Not just, is it appraised right? Or do we need it for this one project?
And I think as a general rule, just to allude, now, this is my opinion and the position of our current planners, but as a general rule, I don't think giving up city land is generally highly
Oh,
recommended or,
no,
yeah.
definitely discouraged.
And even if you look at existing ones, like the family center down on the north end of Broadway, that's a lease,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, anyhow, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. Ugh. I'm gonna hit end.
Open house.